voters in the last election just decided to vote for the lesser of two evils, not knowing that the lesser of evil is still evil.
So my comment is to you, Supervisor Harris. What motivated you to seek the supervisor position of Thornton Township? Was it solely for the six-figure compensation? Or did you feel a sense of entitlement to become the most powerful figure in the Southland?
Our first assessment is there was a political maneuver made in secret to restore a salary.
I cannot communicate this to you enough. You're not there to enrich yourselves. You're there. We need the services.
People are using this as clickbait, and I want to put some emphasis on this. We have a lot of people that come here for their own entertainment purposes, and for people to come every week to try to create a narrative that's not there to continue to make people come here to bring a narrative like the Thornton Township is really embarrassing. And I'll be the first to say,
Napoleon Harris is catching serious heat after getting exposed for a shady pay raise scheme that shocked even his own supporters. Turns out, he's pulling in over $300,000 for two part-time jobs, one as a township supervisor and the other in the state senate, and it gets worse. He allegedly used a shell bill to sneak in that raise silently, behind unrelated legislation. If that sounds familiar, it's because we already saw this movie with Tiffany Henyard. And guess what? We're watching the sequel. The people of Thornton Township said, never again, but here we are, still broke, still scammed, and still dealing with arrogant politicians who don't feel the need to explain anything. Napoleon didn't even bother addressing the scandal directly. No press statement, no apology, not even a fake excuse. Meanwhile, township meetings are a mess. Trustees stay quiet. Forensic audits are too expensive, but somehow they keep finding the money to pad his pockets. Where's it coming from? Who's still signing off on this? The same finance director who used to answer to Tiffany like a puppet is still there, the man who couldn't speak unless she allowed it. Why? Because nothing really changed. Napoleon Harris is acting like the township is his personal playground. He didn't have to campaign, didn't have to work, didn't have to explain because the last mayor was so bad. He just had to sit back and collect the win. And now he thinks he can do whatever he wants, and nobody's going to stop him. And then came the budget meeting, where he finally opened his mouth, just enough to gaslight everyone. He rambled about strategically reducing the levy and how the budget reflects the priorities of the people. But whose people? Whose priorities? Because the residents didn't ask for more luxury SUVs or bloated salaries. They asked for transparency, audits, and someone to clean up the mess. Instead, they got another smooth talker with a $300,000 smile. He claims the township has a tax relief program in place, but that's just a Band-Aid over a bullet wound. If the township is supposedly broke, how are they funding this mysterious tax relief program? He says they might not even spend all the money, but it's there just in case. Just in case of what, exactly? Another salary bump? Another Tahoe lease? Or more silence from trustees who pretend not to notice while residents drown in corruption? And as the meeting ended, he had the nerve to say, "We don't want to leave any resident behind." But residents have already been left behind, buried under taxes, broken trust, and backroom deals. The only people being taken care of are the ones cashing six-figure checks. Napoleon's playing king while everyone else gets crumbs, and worst part, he knows it. And he's not even trying to hide it anymore. I keep hearing folks say, we need a forensic audit, and we're overspending here. We're overspending there. But then they turn around and say audits are too expensive? Really? So y'all got $200,000 to pay a supervisor who barely shows up. But suddenly, there's no money to figure out where the rest of our tax dollars went. Make it make sense. Before we dive deeper into how Napoleon Harris is dodging accountability while stacking cash, quick message for anyone on Medicare. If you or someone you love is on the wrong plan, you might be losing thousands. Chapter is here to help. They're not tied to insurance companies, they work for you. No spam, totally free. Call 262-454-19 or hit the link in the pinned comment to stop wasting money today. Back to the nonsense. So now we're being told that a forensic audit is just too expensive. But somehow, paying Harris $200,000 a year with zero transparency, that's perfectly fine. That's money well spent. Because according to him, you get paid what you're worth. And in his mind, apparently, he's worth more than the truth. A budget-busting audit? No thanks. But his six-figure salary? That's sacred. He's making it crystal clear. There will be no forensic audit. Stop asking. Stop dreaming. We're not going backward, he says. Translation: don't expect answers, receipts, or accountability. Just smile, nod, and believe. Everything's great, because he's in charge. Never mind that the last budget was late. Never mind the glaring financial gaps. They'll just keep pretending like everything's under control. Then he starts thanking Finance Chair Robert Hunt. For bridging the gap like this is a pep rally and not a financial disaster. What gap are they even talking about? The one between facts and fiction? Honestly, at this point, it feels like Napoleon thinks he's back on the football field. A gap, big gap. Bro, this ain't Madden. This is taxpayer money we're talking about, and Robert Hunt shouldn't even be in the room. The man can't answer questions, won't face the press, and somehow still holds power. He's out here trying to erase critical news articles and bury anything that paints the board in a bad light, especially if it risks their paycheck. But hey, as long as everyone stays quiet, the money keeps flowing. That's the new playbook. Worse is that nearly everyone on that board is getting paid more than they're supposed to, and still no forensic audit. Still no real answers. If Tiffany Henyard allegedly stole everything, shouldn't it be easy to justify an audit? To figure out where the money went, unless, of course, there's more dirt no one wants uncovered. Don Lee hit the nail on the head. We need a baseline. We need a clean slate, real numbers, and an actual paper trail so the township can finally move forward. But what do we get instead? Silence. Trustees who used to speak up now look like props. Christopher Gonzalez used to battle Tiffany Henyard head-on. Now he's gone ghost. So let me get this straight. We're watching the same exact rubber stamp. Routine play out in Thornton Township that we saw when Tiffany Henyard was running wild. Back then, she'd mumble something at the mic. The trustees clapped like trained seals. They voted, and just like that, chaos. Now we've got Napoleon, Harris playing king, and the trustees dead silent. Not a peep. They nodded, voted, and moved on like they weren't elected to do anything other than warm chairs. I actually thought, maybe, just maybe, this new board would push back. Demand accountability. Show they're not just another batch of But nope, they didn't say a single word when Napoleon Harris laid out his power plan. Not one trustee questioned a thing. And if you used to criticize Tiffany's secrecy and mess, but now you're quiet through this, you've officially lost all moral credibility. Either you're scared, you've been bought, or you're just plain useless. And speaking of shady, let's talk about Robert Hunt. Why is this man still finance director? How? Why? How does someone under this much suspicion keep their job? Oh wait, maybe because Napoleon Harris wants him there. Even after he allegedly tried to wipe out negative press by sending copyright takedown threats to the Lansing Journal. That's right, the same journal that's been trying to keep the public informed, while your so-called leaders try to cover their tracks. So here's the backstory. The Lansing Journal published articles in April 2024 and again in April 2025. Suddenly, they start getting hit with DMCA complaints, fake copyright claims, saying Robert Hunt owns the articles. The journal reaches out to Hunt directly, and he denies everything. Wasn't me, he says, but guess what? Later that same day, another round of complaints comes in, this time from a Pakistani-based takedown service. And now there's evidence suggesting Robert Hunt paid someone overseas, probably on Fiverr, to nuke those articles from the internet. You heard that right. Thornton Township's finance director, who makes over 6 figures, is allegedly out. Here hiring discount overseas freelancers to wipe out articles that make him look bad. He didn't even have the guts to do it himself. Fiverr, y'all. A website where people pay $5 to get logos made, and apparently also to run PR cleanup. For shady Illinois officials, if true, this is next-level embarrassing. And what does Napoleon Harris do after this clown move from Hunt? He keeps him on. No disciplinary action, no questions asked. He just shrugs and moves on like it's business as usual. Which makes you wonder, what does Robert Hunt know? What's he holding over people's heads? Because this man's name is knee-deep in scandals, and nobody wants to say a word. Meanwhile, while everyone's distracted, the township's still out here throwing events, spending money like nothing's wrong. Taxpayer dollars are going into parties and food festivals, while residents are begging for answers about misused funds, rising poverty, and declining services. Transparency, non-existent. The people ask questions. The board gives them blank stares. Let's be real. Frank Zuccarelli turned Thornton Township into a super PAC. Henyard turned it into her personal theme park. And now Napoleon Harris wants to turn it into a currency exchange so he can cash his six-figure checks. He's making big money, while the township population keeps shrinking and services keep failing. And to top it off, when someone tried to challenge his actual residency, the electoral board tossed the case because guess who controls which judges get on the ballot? That's right, Napoleon Harris himself. So now the township is basically a shell corporation run by insiders, protected by judges they handpicked, and rubber-stamped by trustees who sit there like mannequins. Meanwhile, the finance director is allegedly out here hiring Fiverr freelancers in Pakistan to take down bad press. And y'all still think the worst was Tiffany Henyard. Let me say this loud and clear. I was never afraid of Tiffany Henyard goons. Let's just put that out there. They were messy, loud, and sloppy. But when it comes to Napoleon Harris and his legal team, that's a whole different level, because at least Tiffany's camp was obvious about their chaos. Napoleon, he's got lawyers crafting these carefully curated, politically polished responses, while he hides behind phrases like clickbait and let's move forward, sir. Who are you fooling? You think we can't see what's going on just because you used a calm tone and a suit? Because here's the truth. Residents showed up with real questions, concerns about the budget, about transparency, about this ridiculous $292,000 salary. They came ready. And what did Napoleon do? He danced. He dodged. He gave some word salad about moving forward. Forward from what? Exactly. The corruption, the lies, the fact that we have no clear financial records. You're talking about progress like we're in the middle of a successful plan. No, sir, we're in the middle of a cleanup. And then he had the audacity to say he doesn't speak negatively about anyone before or after him, like that's some badge of honor, like silence is leadership. No, that's how corruption festers. That's how shady backroom deals get swept under the rug. Because the people in charge don't speak up. They just look the other way while everybody eats. You want a medal for that? You're complicit, not noble. Then he turns around and tries to reframe this whole thing like it's just about clout. Talking about clickbait, like the residents holding him accountable are just chasing views. Nah, we're chasing receipts. Chasing the truth, chasing the real numbers behind these bloated budgets and secret raises that were slipped into shell bills with zero oversight. That's not clickbait. That's due diligence. He also made a point to say public officials are motivated by care. Really, because it sure looks like they're motivated by cash, inflated contracts, land deals, and silence money. If there's care involved, it's for their own bank accounts. And let's be honest, if you're standing in front of a mic, repeating vague, soft-spoken nothingness, trying to shame the public into silence, then you're not leading, you're controlling. And we see right through that. He even tried to throw shade at the idea of being entertainment, as if calling out corruption is somehow performance art. No, what's entertaining is the way they all get dramatic when the spotlight turns. Back on them, you think this is a joke, because it's not. People are losing trust. And when public trust breaks, it doesn't matter how long you've been in office, how many suits you own, or how calm your voice sounds. The people will find out what you've been hiding. So let me say this. The people aren't stupid. They don't need condescending lectures about unity. They need access to information. They need honesty. They need budgets that match reality, not inflated salaries disguised as progress. And if Napoleon thinks he can ride out this storm with vague speeches and lawyer-approved sound bites, he's got another thing coming, because the pressure is only building. And we're just getting started. And of course, she'll get the whole room clapping like it's a standing ovation. But honestly, we're stuck in a déjà vu loop with this guy. Let's be real. All those things I listed earlier, pantry work, transparency, accountabilities, every trustee here had an opportunity to talk about them. But instead of real answers, we get vague promises and stalling tactics. The truth is, we can't do everything at once, but that doesn't mean we get to avoid answering the public. We need progressive steps. yes but steps with real accountability and real transparency. Just say that. Be honest. Because right now, you could easily explain how you're making nearly $400,000 a year, how you got that salary from unrelated legislation, and you're refusing to, right now, today, on the record. You could break it down, but you won't. And that's not lost on us. The man didn't explain one single thing, not even after it was brought up multiple times in public comment. Dead silence. That's not leadership. That's evasion. So now we're being told, we're working hard, and we're prioritizing what's imminent. But the truth is, some issues should be high priority, like how public money is being spent, like why the board is rubber stamping raises without proper discussion. This isn't just about moving slow, it's about avoiding questions. And here's where it gets frustrating. Everyone wants to act like silence equals professionalism. Napoleon Harris keeps saying, well, we're not up here arguing, we're not dysfunctional. But what does that even mean? Since when does agreeing on everything mean you're doing your job? Since when does discussion equal dysfunction? Let me break it down. You want us to believe that when trustees raise valid concerns or ask tough questions, that's chaos. No, that's democracy. That's what professionalism actually looks like. People having the courage to speak up. But Napoleon doesn't want discussion. He wants obedience. Because for him, anything less than blind agreement is dysfunction. And the scary part is, he genuinely believes that. Let's be honest, he's not a great speaker. He's not clear. He's not charismatic. And half the time, I don't even know what he just said. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like surface-level thinking with no substance. And yet, he's pocketing nearly $400,000 of public funds. So, yeah, maybe I should have played football. Maybe then I'd get a six-figure township job with no accountability. But I'll leave you with this. He claims the majority of residents agree with what they're doing. Yet somehow, the people who disagree keep getting silenced, kicked out, or ignored. So ask yourself how much of that majority support is real, and how much of it is just carefully controlled PR. So let me get this straight. Supervisor, Napoleon Harris stands there pretending he doesn't even know what's going on in his own damn township. Says he doesn't believe the news reports like the one that aired on WGN, sir. People are mad for a reason. You're either completely out of touch or someone's feeding you lies. And let's not forget, your chief of staff is allegedly pulling in over $100,000. And no one can even explain what she does all day. Her name escapes, folks, but the receipts are out there. Google it. He says, we shoot for 1,000. We want everybody's approval, but in the same breath, he admits you can't please everyone. No kidding. But here's the real issue. People are showing up to these board meetings week after week, trying to raise valid concerns, and he calls it embarrassing. Embarrassing. You know what's embarrassing? A supervisor who thinks any form of criticism is an attack on the township. What are you going to do about it, Harris? Kick people out? Call security? Bring batons? Because the way you're talking, it's like any challenge to your authority is treason. You won't stand for it. What does that even mean? You can't handle heat from your own taxpayers. That's dictatorship energy, not democracy. You're acting like every complaint is some conspiracy to destroy Thornton Township. Newsflash. Criticism isn't the enemy, it's accountability. But apparently, accountability don't live here anymore. Now take a look at the board up there, all smiling like they're on vacation, like nothing's wrong. Just rewind the footage. Everyone looks way too relaxed, like they're in on the joke, like they know the game is rigged and they're untouchable. Trust me, they're not nervous because they think they're doing something right. They're not nervous because they think no one can touch them. And that confidence, that's exactly why they should be worried. Because this is exactly how the Tiffany Henyard situation started. Same blind loyalty, same refusal to listen, same smug, we got this energy. But all it takes is one person to break the ranks, say this ain't right, and boomhole. Empire starts crumbling. The moment someone up there dares to question the system, they'll be fired, silenced, or replaced. And that's how the downfall begins. Ask Dalton. The momentum is building and, not in a good way. This is still the early stage, but we've seen this movie before. Someone inside the circle always flips when things get too hot, and the mood. Right now, it's already shifting. You can tell folks aren't too happy with the new Tiffany H.S. giving Dacia vu. Just look at the board nobody up there. Looks comfortable. Thank you for your public comments. But that was a masterclass in fake professionalism. He asked for courtesy and respect for everyone trying to do the best job possible in Thornton Township, while standing in the same room where the last corrupt mayor turned the village into her personal ATM. This situation is already a dumpster fire. It just started, honestly. I thought they'd at least pretend to be clean for a year. Like, chill. Wait a few months. Give people a break. But nope. He jumped into the chaos headfirst. First meeting, he's like, let's reverse that Tiffany Henyard promo ban. I need my face everywhere. Bro couldn't wait to start branding himself. You'd think they'd learn, but this is Thornton Township. These are the same trustees who barked at Tiffany every week, shouting jail time. But now, crickets. Napoleon Harris walks in, and suddenly everyone forgets how to speak up. All that heat they had for Tiffany, gone silent. It's like someone hit the mute button on accountability. So yeah, we're stuck in the sequel nobody asked for, and let's be real, do we even know if Napoleon's the one really running this? I mean, there's so much happening behind the scenes it's impossible to keep up. 1 minute it's budget drama, next it's some shady hiring. Blink and you miss it. Maybe he'll get booted, maybe not. But if I had one message for the people, it's this: keep that same energy. Don't be fooled just because he's smoother than Tiffany. He's not going to crash out loud. He'll probably hire halfway competent people this time. No felons, no SA charges, no cursing at residents from the dais. But that doesn't mean he's clean. He already showed his hand. He snapped back at critics, claiming they're pushing false narratives. Red flag. And what does that even mean? He won't stand for it. You're in public office, my guy. People are supposed to criticize you. That's how this works. So now we're watching closely to see if this is another ego trip or a full-on cover-up, because when leaders say stuff like that, they usually mean censorship or threats. And speaking of shady moves, shout out to Robin Hunt for trying to pull that sneak attack. That flop only made the situation messier. Trying to silence critics just brought more attention to Napoleon's sketchy rollout. Lansing journals, watching now, every click, every move, every invoice under the microscope. Good luck with that. Meanwhile, Napoleon's got all that smoke for clickbaiters, but nothing to say about that bloated salary. Nothing about the chief of staff making thousands more than legally allowed. Nothing about the inflated payroll across the board. Just vibes, events, and denial. Bread and circuses for the people, while the village bleeds money. He calls it transparency. We call it performance art. He's not trying to get things right. He's trying to own the narrative. And the moment someone challenges him, suddenly they're the problem. He's the don't rock the boat guy on till it's his boat. Then he'll steer it right into the iceberg just to prove a point. So yada, it's depressing. But we're not going anywhere. We're going to keep showing up, keep reporting, and keep exposing what they're trying to hide. Because if you thought Tiffany was the final boss of Thornton corruption, think again. This sequel might be quieter, but it's just as dirty. Let's see how long it takes to collapse.